Education. It's now 6:35 p.m. The state of Illinois continues to operate under a disaster declaration related to the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic. Our school buildings have been closed since March 13th, 2020, with very limited access by only employees who are performing essential duties. The health department continues to advise the community to practice social distancing, wear face masks, and avoid unnecessary contact with others. Based on the current public health concerns, I, Sarah Dixon Spivey, as head of this public body, do not believe it is either practical nor prudent to hold an in-person meeting of the Board of Education on August 27, 2020. I further believe that it is neither practical nor prudent for the public to be present at the public body's regular meeting location. We will continue to hold a remote meeting with updated practices to comply with Public Act 101-640 that was signed by Governor Pritzker on June 12, 2020. Pursuant to the Public Act 101-640, since the meeting cannot be conducted at the regular physical location due to the health crisis, alternative arrangements have been made to allow any interested member of the public to hear all discussion, testimony, and roll call votes. Included on our board agenda that you can find on the website, there is of course a link for the public to access this video feed. Gail, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Kropsky?
Here.
Dr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Barron?
Here.
Mr. Isley? I'll come back. Mr. Martiri?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Isley?
Here.
And Ms. Dixon Spivey?
Here.
Thank you.
Sure. I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony in a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. For litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis of the finding shall be recorded and entered into the closed meeting minutes. For collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and for placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to individual students. Is there a second?
Second.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Barron?
Yes.
Mr. Isley?
Yes.
Mr. Martiri?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Kropsky?
Yes.
And Ms. Dixon Spivey?
Yes. So you guys should have gotten that link in your email, and I will see you there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we're waiting for just one more board member who's trying to get into the room.
Well, President Spivey, when you start the meeting, I need to acknowledge that we're pulling an item.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. We're missing one more person. I'm going to give it one more minute, and then we'll just go ahead and start. All right, we've gotten a little bit of a late start with our open portion of our meeting, but I think we're all here now. So our first item is status of FOIA requests.
Yes.
Excuse me, Board Member Spivey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
President, I need to pull item 8.01, Board of Education goals for the 2020-21 school year.
Thank you. And that will be coming back at our next meeting.
Mhm.
All right, FOIAs.
Yes, we've received 6 FOIAs and 4 have been resolved.
Thank you. Superintendent announcements.
I'm happy to say that based upon our informal feedback, our semester of remote learning is off to a great start. We had some really excellent presentations for our professional development days. In addition to a training on sexual harassment for all staff, we had sessions on differentiation, assessment, culturally responsive pedagogy, technology, and building a culture of warmth. The presenters did a terrific job, not only of covering these topics in the context of remote learning, but also modeling what engaging virtual instruction can look like. As you know, we delayed the start of classes by 2 days to allow some extra planning time for our teachers, which was much appreciated. For students, we started the year off with a surprise on Friday, August 14th, when 126 juniors and seniors in our leadership program delivered yard signs to all of our new freshmen. Our annual Husky Freshman Kickoff was held the day before classes though, of course, it was virtual. Freshmen met with their advisory class and teacher via Google Meet, where they had sessions with their counselors, deans, and student mentors from leadership. Part of what the mentors talked about was getting involved in extracurricular activities. All students will be able to learn more about these opportunities with the virtual version of our student activities fair early this semester. For the first part of the school year, our focus has been on fostering students' social, emotional wellness and creating a sense of connection with their teachers and their classmates. To find out what has been working well and what could be improved, we'll be running a thought exchange survey for our students early next week. We'll be sure to report our findings from that with the board. In closing, I want to say how much I appreciate the ongoing support of our teachers, staff, students, family, and the board. The decision to go fully remote this semester was controversial when we announced our draft plans back in early July. As we had hoped, however, going out early with a clear decision and giving our teachers plenty of time to plan was the right move and has helped to get our year off to a smooth start. This semester won't be perfect, and we're all going to learn some new things along the way. That said, I'm grateful to our entire school community for its dedication in coming together to provide those things that are best for our students as we serve. As a last note, I want to announce to the public that the committee of the whole meetings have been moved. They will now be on the second Thursday of the month rather than the third Tuesday of the month. And so our next CAL, Committee of the Whole meeting, or CAL, will be held on September the 10th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, and that concludes my announcements.
Thank you. All right, Gail, we have public comments.
Hear you.
I'm sorry. Yes, we have one. This is from Colleen Hulin. I would like to request a formal timeline be made and posted on the OPRF website on the process to move from in-person to remote learning and how the AB schedule was decided. A formal document that outlines each week the the process, data, charts, research, and group meetings, and all other related documents that went into this decision. Also, what role did the teachers have in this decision would be useful information. The current FAQ and board meeting packets are inconsistent and hard to follow and lacking in information and data. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Now we have approval of, I'm not on mute, okay. Approval of the following consent items. I move to approve check disbursements and financial resolutions, monthly financial reports, monthly treasurer's report, policies for first reading. Gail, am I supposed to say the policy numbers as well?
Yes.
Okay. And the policies for first reading are 7:40, non-public school students, including parochial and homeschool students. Policy 5:200, terms and conditions of employment. Policy 2:220, Board of Education meeting procedure. Policy 5:30, hiring process and criteria. Policy 5:90, abused and neglected child reporting. Policy 5:100, staff development. Policy 6:280, grading and promotion. Policy 7:70, attendance and truancy. Policy 8:10, connection with the community. Policy 8:30, visitors to and conduct on school property. Policy 280-E, exhibit, Illinois Association of School Boards Code of Conduct for members of school boards. Policy 2:220-E1, board treatment of closed meeting verbatim recordings. Policy 2:220-E2, motion to adjourn to closed meeting. Policy 2:220-E4, open meeting minutes. And policy 2:220-E5, semi-annual review of closed meeting minutes. Personnel recommendations, including new hires, retirement, resignation, and releases. Appointment of additional and deletion of culture, climate, and behavior committee members. Settlement agreement for individualized facilities instruction. Open and closed minutes of June 25th, July 9th, August 5th, and 18th, 2020, and a declaration that the closed session audio tapes of November 2018 shall be destroyed. And lastly, first student transportation contract extension for field trips and extracurricular trips. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any policies that, or sorry, any items that anyone would like pulled for discussion? Okay, Gail, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. Isley,
Yes.
Mr. Martieri,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Kofsky,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
and Ms. Dixon Spivey.
Yes, thank you. Now we're on to action items. Our first action item are the policies for first reading. Dr. Pruitt-Adams, I don't know if you want to.
We've gone through these. These are items for approval. We went through them at the last board meeting.
Does anybody have any questions about these the first reading policies?
Oh, nope, I'm sorry. The ones you just did were the ones we did. I am so sorry. I missed that. Okay, I will go through these. Policy 2:260 is the uniform grievance procedure. It's a recommendation to make the changes due to Title IX regulations. Policy 2:265, Title IX sexual harassment grievance procedures. And this too is in compliance with changes to the new law regarding recommendations for Title IX. 5:10, equal employment opportunity, minority recruitment. These changes are also updated in response to the Victims Economic and Safety Act, as well as the new Title IX regulations. The next one is 5:20, workplace harassment prohibited. And these updates are also in compliance with the new Title IX regulations. The next one is 7:10, equal education opportunities, again, in compliance with the new Title IX law, I'm sorry. The next one is 7:20, harassment of students prohibited. This too is in compliance with the new Title IX regulations. 7:90, release during the school day. This is tied to regulate required question, allowing students who are of an age to vote to have time away from school in order to vote on election day. 4:130E, free and reduced lunch food services, meal charge notifications. This is the changes are in compliance with the Hunger Free Students Bill. And 8:80, gift to the district. This is up for 5-year review.
And I'm sorry, did we actually move to approve these yet?
I don't think you did.
No.
I don't think I did. I'm sorry. So I moved to approve the above mentioned policies. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions?
Sarah, does I don't have the agenda up on my screen. I've been trying to get it up and I've been failing on my computer. Is the policy on gifts to the district, does it include that awkward language that you and I have discussed about advantaging one department over another?
I can open it. It says be accepted by the board and/or less than $500 in value, the superintendent or designee. Individuals should obtain a pre-acceptance commitment before identifying the district, any school or school program or activity as a beneficiary. The second one is be given without a stated purpose or with a purpose deemed by the party with authority to accept the gift to the compatibility of the Board of Education's objectives and policies. Number 3, be consistent with the district's mandate to provide equal educational and extracurricular opportunities to all students in the district as provided in Board Policy 7:10, equal education opportunities in accordance with state and federal laws requires the district to provide equal treatment for members of both sexes.
Yeah, I think it's in item 4, permit the district to maintain resource equity among its learning centers.
That's what it
I'm
says.
I'm not quite sure what that means, but if someone wanted to give us a major donation for our science department, and that would somehow, some way advantage our science department over our English and language arts department, would this mean we couldn't accept the gift? So I'm just unclear about that language.
I don't believe that it does, but I can follow up on that if you would like.
Yeah, so on that one, I would just like clarity, because obviously sometimes wealthy donors, and we do have this foundation and formation that's looking to make major contributions to the school district, it may go to one or two areas specifically and not other areas. And I would hate to have to say, well, that's against our policy. So I would just like to understand what that meant and get clarity on that.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
So I just want to clarify, does that mean that one's been pulled because pending clarification on point 4?
Yeah, so this is just up for first reading tonight, and they will come back for final approval at the next board meeting. My suggestion would be to go ahead and, approve this with the understanding that we will have clarity at the, on or before the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Gail, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Martieri,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Kowski,
Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Isley, and Ms. Dixon.
Yes, thank you. Our next item is the River Forest Community Center Husky Pups. I move to approve reopening the River Forest Community Center Husky Pups program. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
As we presented the recommendation the last time, joining us again is Mr. Ron C. Anderson, Executive Director of Operations, and Mr. Dick Chappelle, the River Forest Community Center Executive Director. Some information was requested. I believe that information has been supplied. If there are any questions you have of the two gentlemen, they are prepared to answer them. This item is in compliance with Strategic Plan Priority 4 and District Policy 1:20 and 8:20. Do you have any questions of the gentleman?
I have one. Yes. As you're thinking about, opening this up, and I don't know that it's in your opening plan. My question is really, how would you think about, at what point would you feel, or what point have you decided you would need to shut it down in the event something happened or the environment became different? Is there any language that triggers, having to shut this down?
For the community center, there are certain protocols as far as following that with either the Illinois Department of Public Health. And in fact, we had an incident with one of our staff members at our River Forest site that opened up probably about 6 weeks ago. And what we did was we contacted them and followed their protocol, which we did not have to shut down the site outright. And I think that one of the lessons that we learned from that was that with the social distancing that we practice, that really minimizes the contact between our staff and participants.
Yeah, I guess I was more referring to, let's say the state goes, back from phase 4 into phase 3 or phase 2. Would this still remain open?
I could probably answer that one as well. Because it's housed in River Forest, we also operate under the they're operating in River Forest, which is Cook County.
Yep.
They would be mandated if we went back to phase 2 or phase 3, probably to close, because I believe in phase 3, child care centers were not open unless they were for first responders. Also, our building is under the auspices of the Oak Park Health Department. And if we got word from the Oak Park Health Department that we had to close our facility, then that would result in the River Forest Community Center closing as well.
Okay, thank you.
This is Martieri. Do we have adequate classroom space for them to have the appropriate distancing among all these preschoolers when they're in our facility, number one? And then number two, is our ventilation system, its age and lack of modern, capacity, a problem that has been considered? And I guess the third thing is, we saw that insurance disclaimer today that was passed around. So is there a disclaimer in your insurance from your insurance provider that basically says they are not going to cover viral transmitted communicable diseases like, in fact, the one that we're suffering through at this pandemic?
I'll take the classroom space. The classroom space we have, due to the reduced size of the the incoming kids. We do have the classroom space, and we changed our filtration to MERV 13. I believe it's MERV 13 filters, which will allow for the right ventilation and filtration within those classrooms. Dick, can you answer the one about the last one he asked?
As far as the insurance,
Yes.
yeah, I had included an excerpt from our policy. I did speak with our broker during the past week and then again earlier this afternoon, just to try to get the most up-to-date information that I could regarding our insurance. There is that the excerpt that I included, what they indicated is that most insurance policies no longer carry for the virus and bacterial issues that could potentially arise. Having said that, one of the things that they did indicate, though, is if a business or an agency is following what are the accepted best practices, which the community center does follow, which is actually part of the DCFS guidelines and the Department of Public Health guidelines for operating as well as reopening, then they've indicated that you are in a very good position and most likely in a defensible position.
Although the clear language of that provision was it's not covered.
In essence,
It was kind of unambiguous.
I'm sorry?
It was unambiguous language that the policy doesn't cover it.
That is correct.
Jackie?
Hi, thank you. One question I have has to do with, as we've been talking about, having our students, high school students, back on campus. One of the classes that was mentioned was auto shop. And doesn't auto shop abut some of the Husky Pup space?
It does. I'm going to ask Mike Cariosho to respond to that as well, because he worked with, this was prior to Mr. Anderson coming on board. He worked to make sure that those things that were identified by the fire marshal were taken care of. So there should not be any interaction, I don't believe. I think that's your question, interaction of our students.
Well, it's interaction, but it's also the access in terms of, you know, the doors, and when does it change at all the approach that's being taken with having the Husky Pup program on site?
That's a good question.
So if I may, there is one shared hallway. And to your point, Dr. Moore, that there are several doors in that hallway leading through the hallway to those two various RFCC Husky Pup rooms. So I think that would be something that I would certainly recommend that we look at that, and we either limit access, cut it off for one of the two groups, or figure out a way to coordinate and schedule it so that there is no mingling in any way. I think the probability of that happening is typically very, very small, but I think we should take an extra precaution to assure it goes to as close to zero as possible.
I would like to see that plan prior to agreeing to this, because it seems fundamental to what we're trying to do from a safety standpoint in terms of our students and you know, another group sharing the building. So given that it was, we just received, as a board member, just received the information in the last week about what classes would be coming on. It didn't spark anything in me until actually earlier in our discussion that auto shop is, if you know, the proximity. So I would think that plan should be spelled out for the assurances of everybody, the parents of Husky Pup students, the parents of our students, all of our staff, what that plan is and how we're, handling that, because this is our first foray into our students being back into the building in a scheduled fashion. The other question I had has to do with the space issues. And it's the indoor, but it's also the outdoor. What outdoor space is the playground that was there for Husky Pups? What will the preschoolers, and is it all of the children in the program, what kind of outdoor space is available to them at our site?
The only outdoor space was that playground they were using. We will have to look for other outdoor spaces for them to use that's in close proximity, so they won't have to travel far. And only close place to the building that's on that side is the tennis courts, or
But the tennis courts is a staging area, and that's for public use right now.
oh, right.
Other parts, so the tennis court is not an option.
So they will be limited to outdoor space.
You know what, Dr. Moore, if I could also add, when I was over at the high school last week, I went out and looked, and the playground is still, it's still usable for our program, provided, I don't know what the construction schedule is, or if there are certain times of the day where it might be off limits. But when I was over there last week, our staff and our program, and it's really more for the preschool age children in our program, that should be accessible and I think usable for us. If the construction and or the contractors, if it would be limited because of them, then I think that our staff is also throughout the year the years that we've been there, whether it's walking excursions, there's a park that's not too far away that we've also utilized in the past. So I think that there could be some alternate arrangements made that would still comply with the DCFS licensing rules and regs as far as being able to provide physical activities.
Thank you. I would state again, to me, this is an area that needs to be figured out and articulated as part of this agreement. Because from Mr. Anderson to you, Mr. Chappelle, there were completely different answers about the use of the playground. And then to the point of the DCFS aspect, as a parent, I would want to know what space was going to be available. And I think as a board, from a safety standpoint and just a well-being of, of little people that do need to be able to move around. We need to know what this is going to look like, because saying that the playground might be available in certain, I can't even imagine how it could be. So I'm just going to, with the construction, site right there. So we haven't, there are two areas that seem to need further investigation or articulation for me personally before I'm comfortable with even saying that this should move forward. I have the reservations I expressed before, and I don't feel that those have been, these add to that, I should say.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments?
Sarah, Tom here.
Yeah, Tom.
At the last meeting, we were talking about, the other side of the agreement, which is our students at the River Forest Community Center. And at that point, it was undetermined what that was going to look like. Can you please provide me an update with when our students would be returning to that facility?
I'm not sure if, I know that Ms. Francois Blue has gone over to the facility to look at it, but we've not had a discussion yet about when the site students would go back over there.
have, you know, there's an issue with the site, but, you know, in terms of having staffing and everything else, what are the roadblocks then from us from opening up that site?
Dr. Adams, would you like for me to speak to that?
Please.
So with the site students, some of the things that's important to keep in mind with the structure of the classroom is that the space itself is configured. It has to be configured in a way where if there is excess furniture or that needs to be removed, which it does, the staffing piece is huge. Some of our students have to be able to maintain wearing either a face mask or shield. So we're working on a flow chart decision-making process to determine how we can support students to maintain face shield or face mask during in-person instruction at the site, at the center. There's also the mobility of transitioning them to the first floor or the second floor that we have to also make sure is part of their schedule. Also making sure that any students that need any hand-over-hand support or that requires physical contact, we have to make sure that we're being mindful of that. So there are several factors that impact being able to safely provide students with the support in those programs that have different functional mobility needs. None of which that we are saying cannot be done. It all depends on what those needs are and which staff that we know are available and accessible to do that work. It also depends on making sure that we have training in place for safety protocols and safety toolkits in place in those classrooms with additional things like resources like masks, shields, desk shields. There are some desk shields that can be placed on tables or desks. So we're exploring what all of those things would need to be in place, the cost, and how they would need to be all positioned within the classroom.
Could you give us a sense of what a timeline towards making those assessments and decisions would look like?
So the end of week notes will have a pretty lengthy update on the transition planning process for that, for just a special ed department in general. It's pretty lengthy.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other, Matt?
Well, I just want to get some clarity based on what I've been hearing right here. So the idea of, delaying a decision tonight, would that mean the next possible chance would be in 4 weeks? And if that's the case, or so that's my first question, is that we wouldn't be able to determine until at least the regular meeting in September?
We would not be able to make, the next time you would be able to make a decision would be September the 10th. At the special board meeting after the COW.
Okay, so we could do it then. And then the other element is, one of the things I heard, there's a mention of first responders in terms of providing for, when if the state were to go back to another phase, if we don't do well as a state, then first responder families would be able to have services, but not others. And I would just remind us something that I think Gina said last week, which is that there's teachers and other people who are part of our educational first response whose children are among this group that we're potentially delaying a decision on. And so I guess, I understand the need and desire and the wisdom of having some more details worked out, but that I guess maybe Dick, if you could address to what degree does this a 2-week delay cause havoc for those families and for your staff?
That does present an additional burden, because since the last time we met last week, I think we've already lost 5 or 6 families, quite frankly. So any further delay is just gonna make it that much more difficult, because people have immediate childcare needs right now. They've had them, quite frankly, since when we would have typically opened, back mid-August or so. So any future delay, I think, would be just very detrimental.
So I know we were looking at roughly 35 youngsters last week. Are we saying now the number's below 30?
Yes, it is. Probably even closer to 20. And I think that when our staff polled participants, there were several that wanted to see what the outcome of the meeting was going to be tonight, quite honestly.
Okay, so that math suggests that the distancing will be easier. I mean, that's an unintended and undesirable consequence of this. I guess I would ask Dr. Pruitt-Adams and your staff the questions that have been posed by Jackie in terms of, you know, the coordination of the entrance with the auto students and so forth. Do you feel confident that without having that formally done and responded to us, that like tonight, would you feel confident assuring us that those would be adequately addressed?
I don't want to make a promise I can't keep. We will do our best to try to address them, but the playground issue is a concern that has to be worked out. I would not recommend using the playground for safety and liability reasons. I would not.
Yeah. Would Scoville Park be an option? Is that too far?
That's a question you'd have to ask Mr. Chappelle. The other thing that we'd have to work out, which I think Mr. Ariosho mentioned, is how we would schedule, because the transition of the students to the wood shop without coming into contact with the students. So I don't want to make you a promise that I can't.
Couldn't we just move the playground to the front lawn? It seems to me there'd be plenty of space there. We'd have to re-landscape it at some point, but you know, I think that's solvable.
I think that's a Mr. Chappelle question. If these, because he knows the DCFS guidelines better than I. Ms. Spivey is asking, can you use the front yard, the lawn out front of the school?
In essence, the short answer would be yes. There's nothing that DCFS stipulates that we have to have a playground. We do have to provide physical activity, and that can take any number of different forms, quite honestly. It doesn't specify that you have to have whether it might be a swing set or a climbing apparatus or whatever. It just specifies that there has to be a physical activity component as part of a licensed DCFS program. So if we were to do that in the front lawn area, that would certainly be acceptable. We have, as I've said before, our staff is very creative, and there have been alternate arrangements for physical activity that they've been able to make throughout the course of the years that we've been in the building. So I think that that's readily attainable. One other thing that I would also add to it to address Dr. Moore's question about the accessibility in the hallway, all of our classrooms have 2 exits. If that's a concern and it's a matter, first, we do try to minimize. We don't want to have any interaction in the hallways with the high school students, just because it's not practical, quite honestly. If it's a matter of, and again, I don't know what the high school schedule is going to be for this year as far as when high school students might be accessing that hallway to get to the auto shop area. But since all of our classrooms have a secondary exit, if it's just a matter of our staff using the secondary exit, it really makes that hallway kind of a moot point.
Any other questions from board members?
All right, Sarah, one more.
Craig, yeah.
You said there's maybe 20, 25 students. Is that in your entire program, or is that just at the high school?
That's just at the high school, Greg.
And you did a survey of other situations across Oak Park. If we did not have this, what is the implications on those individuals? Are they going to be able to find capacity, or I'm just trying to understand what the implications of us saying no are.
I can't answer that fully because, again, that's a parental choice that families would be making as far as what's best for their child. There are some child care agencies that do have openings. We got a very broad cross section. There were 3 that we called that did not have any openings. There were 3 that had maybe an opening in an infant class or possibly an opening in a preschool class. And then I think there were 3 other childcare centers that had openings, had multiple openings in, let's say, a preschool age class. So it's hard to be specific, because that would be, for me to, that would really be left up to the parents to see if that was a situation that they were comfortable in with their children.
Okay,
And
thank you. Okay.
Sarah, I had one last, I wanted to follow up. So, Dick, can you said that the number is, do you have an exact number of families current?
Right now, we don't, because there are a number of our parents that are waiting until the decision on the board decision tonight.
So you have, but 35 was a firm number last week.
That is correct.
And from last week to this week, where you know how many have said they're not returning?
We've got 8 that have said that they're not returning. We've got another probably close to 8 that are waiting on a decision, and then we'll make a decision after that.
And are all of the students, the children, are we predominantly talking about preschoolers, or how are they spread between the infant program and the preschool program?
You know what, I would say right now, I think we've got 5 preschoolers. We've got 3 infants, 5 toddlers, and I think 6 2-year-olds. Those are the ones that have committed to say that they will definitely start.
Okay. I will just say that I am not comfortable voting for this plan, given the need I feel for details to be spelled out for safety reasons. That I'm a bit surprised that it required asking questions this evening, that it was not considered. So that I am going from a position of just not knowing how this safely works, and things, that to me should have been part of the plan that are being talked about as we're supposed to vote on things. And it makes me too uncomfortable. My gut is winning this one. I'm sorry.
Okay, understood. Anyone else? Gina or Ralph? Tom, I can't really see folks, but. All right. Gail, do you want to call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Isley?
Like Jackie, I am uncomfortable, but I trust in Dick and the administration will sort out our problems, and I think we have to make best efforts, so I will vote yes.
Mr. Barron?
Yes.
Mr. Martieri?
I am more with Jackie. I am uncomfortable with the insurance situation. I think a lot of this is too open-ended and potentially can bring a problem into the high school and during a pandemic. And so while I think Dick does phenomenal work and he's a great guy, I'm a no.
And Ms. Harris?
I am looking forward to having the information about how do we make sure that the students are separate, but I'm a yes.
Mr. Kofsky?
I'm with Jackie. I am a no, and for those reasons, as well as wanting to make sure our focus is on our high school students being taken care of. So.
And Ms. Dixon-Spivey?
My son attended summer camp at Vi, and he's currently in a learning pod at Whittier. I would be a complete hypocrite if I voted no for this, so I'm going to vote yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We will work to get those questions, those lingering questions answered.
Thank you. Our next item is approval of the executive functioning skills support tutor at an estimated cost of $53,000.
Want a motion?
Oh, I move to approve this item.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, this is an item that was presented last week in response to the need for an additional position to support executive functioning. Mr. Johnson and Dr. Sanders are ready to answer any questions if you have them. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, I guess we can call the roll.
Mr. Martieri,
Yes.
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Isley,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Kovsky,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
and Ms. Dixon Spivey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is a memorandum of agreement with the Faculty Senate. I move that we approve the MOA. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Isley?
Yes.
Thank you. Teleconference.
There
I
any
didn't hear
questions
who
or
she called.
discussion?
Could I pause for a second, please?
Okay, time out, guys, 1 sec. You know what, now might be a good time. Why don't we take a 5-minute break or so and come back at 8:35? Does that sound okay?
So
Okay,
I second that
8:35,
motion. 5 minutes.
got it. Okay, see you guys in a bit.
I can just ask. Just 1 second, please. So
We're in open session. We're waiting on board member Spivey to return.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Present.
as well.
Here.
I'm here. It's Gina.
Okay, I see Tom and Matt. Ralph, are you here?
Yep.
Gina and Jackie, are you guys here?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay, that's everybody. So we had a hiccup and we made a mistake. We did not get Dr. Moore's vote on the daycare facility. I think we felt like we knew where she was going, and that was part of the problem. So Gail, could you please, let's go back to that item, and Gail, could you please call Dr. Moore's vote?
Hi, sorry. Yes, Dr. Moore.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm sorry about that. What is our next item?
Of agreement.
Yeah, we're on to the MOA with the faculty, and I think we've already moved and seconded. So discussion?
We are prepared to answer any questions that the board may have.
Dr. Moore?
I just want to say I appreciate all the work that went into coming up with the agreement. And as a person that's been a part of negotiations, I know that it is time and labor intensive, and also everyone operating with the best interest of our students at heart. And I appreciate all of that. I will just state my disappointment with the area of advisory. I feel that given the uncertainty of our times and our desire to be a trauma-informed facility and using restorative work and building relationships with our culture of warmth, that to diminish that time to 10 minutes and then have it be a recorded, part of that time be a recorded mindfulness video does not feel like that is the way that we best address the needs of our students. So I will just say that I am in support of the agreement, disappointed that that aspect has that component so short.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Any other board member comments or questions? Matt?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll just, I would echo what Dr. Moore just said about the, element of the student advisory and wanting it to be a more meaningful and in-depth time. And so I'm hopeful that that will come about, and I'm hopeful it'll be inside the classroom, as I know Dr. Pruitt-Adams mentioned optimistically in another conversation. So, but if not, if it's still going to be a Zoom reality come second semester, I think that would be something that I would hope we can readdress and see about having some more in-depth experiences there for students, for all students. And I applaud the Faculty Senate from our last contract that this was something that they felt was a priority. And so this feels like it's maybe a little bit of a retreat from that. And I understand there's lots of other factors that may go into that. It's not in isolation. And so that's just my 2 cents on that one. I would also just applaud the administration and the Faculty Senate. I know that it's hard times and for all, and both are trying to do its best for the students while it's through the risks and challenges that we're facing and the pressures from different stakeholders. And I guess I would ask for a little elaboration on one thing that is not included in here in the memorandum is the element of what some parents expressed a desire for, was to record, the ability to record classes. And I know that there's good reasons why that is not in this agreement. And I just love for that to be elaborated on here a little bit so people can hear that directly from our mouths. And so if someone would be able to do that, that'd be great.
There has been, there was some concern about possibly the misuse of recordings, and then also the concern over the bandwidth to be able to monitor accountability on that with regards to teachers having to record, say, 25 lessons a week, come up with 25 different codes. After so long, take those down, and just keeping up with that, the bandwidth on that in terms of accountability. Also the notion of the potential of misuse of videos, and also hoping that the students, instead of relying on the video for that support, we reach out to the teachers for that support as well. That time with the teacher, where the teacher can explain it in a small group or one-on-one, would be more valuable than just hearing a recording again. That's just some of the rationale. A more detailed response will be featured in our FAQ and upcoming communications with our families.
Thank you.
And this is Martiri chiming in. I want to echo both Dr. Moore's concerns and her gratitude. I agree with both her sets of comments, as well as Matt's, frankly. And the only other additional information I would like from the administration in the next, couple of weeks to a month, as you figure out the scheduling for doing some in-person instruction for some set areas and for some specific student populations, that you inform us of any sort of staffing plan you may have to implement in the event we do not have an adequate number of certified staff with appropriate credentials to provide the services that are needed in a in-person format by all our students who require them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Okay, I would like to thank the Faculty Senate for working with us on this, and for the administration for the time and energy they put into it. I see this as the first step to getting our kids back on campus, especially our students with needs that really require them to be on campus and in person to have them addressed. So I think this is coming, couldn't come soon enough, and I'm happy that this is before us tonight and it positions us to move forward. And I do, Matt's concern and Jackie's concern I share. But I think as we move through this, there will likely be a lot of adjustments that we'll be making in different areas, and that might be one. So Gail, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Barron. Mr. Barron.
You're muted. He looks, I
Frozen.
think his screen was frozen.
Okay, I think my kids might be on Zoom right now.
Oh,
Was there a roll call happening?
right
Yes.
now, yes, you, Mr. Barron.
Oh, okay. I'm a yes, sorry. It was frozen for 10 seconds.
Mr. Isley,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Kofsky,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Martieri,
Yes.
and Ms. Dixon Spivey.
Yes. Thank you all for your work on this.
Thank you for your support on this.
Our next item is a resolution authorizing furlough of specific educational support employees. I move that we approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
This is an item furloughing members of the food service staff. It is a resolution. We would ask for approval if you have questions. We're prepared to answer.
Comments or questions by board members? Okay. I think this is obviously not done lightly and not nearly as positive or as our last item, but I understand that financially it's necessary for the district, although horrible for those employees. Yeah, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Isley,
Yes.
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Martieri,
Yes.
Mr. Kofsky,
Yes.
and Ms. Dixon Spivey.
Yes.
Thank you. We are now in discussion items. We pulled the one for the board goals. And so the next discussion item is item 8.02, the 2019-2020 extracurricular participation report. This is a report we bring forward to the board annually. Making the presentation tonight is Mr. John Stelzer, Athletic Director, and Ms. Susan Johnson, Student Activities Director. This item is in compliance with Strategic Plan Priorities 1 and 2 and District Policy 6:190. Mr. Stelzer and Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, everybody. So we're here to report on athletic and activities participation for last year. Just to summarize, our student participation in extracurricular activities has remained about steady at 77.4% for last year, which is a 0.6% decrease. But that decrease works out to be about 20 students. And we had 2 programs that weren't able to run due to remote learning. And those 2 programs average about 35 students total. Based on participation rates by race, OPRF continues to have no significant participation gap between the overall student population and those that participate in the program. This year, we've also seen an increase in participation amongst our Black and multiracial student subgroups. Last year, we committed to doing an audit of this program and looking through things. However, with the COVID-19 crisis, some of our plans that we had done had kind of come to a halt, and we weren't able to complete that plan. We were able to gather some data, and some of the things we had realized could be barriers for our students participating in activities can include things like overcrowding due to limited space available both indoors and outdoors. Some of our students, when they were polled, our non-participating students were asked what barriers exist for them to participate, and their answers included things like They participate in outside activities that take up their extra time. They have too busy of a schedule to allow for activities. That includes things like job or family responsibilities, and that they need to keep up with the heavy amounts of schoolwork. Students who participate in activity but are used to participate in activity but no longer do gave the following reasons. Things like medical issues or responsibilities outside of school and needing to keep up with schoolwork. Of course, we've run into some situations where some of our facilities are non-ADA compliant, which limits some of our students with special needs from participating. And finally, this report is an informational report. However, it suggests the following things. One, our diverse student population is well represented in activities. However, we should continue to find creative ways to increase participation. This year, we face unique challenges with reduced athletic seasons and operating clubs fully remote. We are operating the majority of our clubs fully remote, but we're having to look at new and different ways to engage with students. On Wednesday and Thursday, that next week, we're going to be holding our virtual activity fair. And the website that goes with that virtual activity fair will be able to run all year to help engage our students. And regardless of the altered programming this year, we will conduct a program evaluation during the school year and utilize the newly identified racial equity analysis tool as part of that process. John, did you have anything to add?
No, I think you summed that up very well. I do think this school year is offering everybody unique challenges, and extracurriculars is no different from anyone else in that regard. So you're all aware that we have started to ramp up our abbreviated fall season with 6 sports right now. Our coaches and athletic department staff are working diligently and tirelessly to try to make this situation a positive and a beneficial experience for all of our students that are involved. So we're just, I guess that sums it up. I guess we'll open it up to any questions regarding the report or anything else.
Any questions from board members?
Yes, quick one. A question I've asked because, we have a number there, but there's, as you mentioned, there are students that claim they have, or that have, outside activities, whether it's in a sport that's not with the school, whether it's a job, et cetera. And if we're going to be putting, target measurements on what we want, how can we do that without getting quantification of that information?
I'm not sure exactly what are you asking how we should?
Yeah, do we measure, how many students are participating in that are not in this 77%, but you said they do have outside responsibilities beyond this, because, as we keep looking at saying what is the right target, wouldn't that information be needed to make that determination?
Absolutely. I think one of the best ways we can start is look at the students that aren't participating and do focus groups with them to find out specifically, as well as to do some pollings to find out exactly what those numbers are, what percentage of that 20% of kids that aren't participating are because they're involved in the outside activities, and what percentage are not involved in any activity whatsoever. And I think that's good data that we can find out is what students are just going home and not doing anything. So that's one of our goals this year.
Susan, you mentioned or referenced the a survey. What survey were you there? That data isn't here when you did talk about students not participating because of other commitments. Was there some survey that was done of students?
There was a survey that was sent out to students a couple of years ago that we were able to get that data from, but we weren't able to poll them this year about that data because that was our plan during fourth quarter. And so our hesitancy was if we polled them during fourth quarter, we felt that the data would be skewed based on remote learning and how they felt during participating during remote learning. So this year, we are going to continue with that and figure out ways to work around that.
Okay, I was confused then because when you were stating that, I thought that there was current data that you were referencing.
No, it's within the last couple of years. It's just not this year.
Okay. Tom, did you have another question? Because I had one. Okay. I want to ask about there were a couple of clubs, sorry, I'm scrolling down, where you talked about participation had grown.
Mm-hmm.
What do we know about, what's the racial demographics for those clubs that grew?
I have them in data. I don't have them broken down in front of me right now, but they are in the raw data that we have.
I'm feeling like a broken record, and for me, this data, this report starts to lose meaning when we are trying to say that we're trying to increase participation and are tying extracurricular activity to closing achievement disparities, but we don't have the data, the information in a format that allows to draw those conclusions or even understand if we're on the right track. And this has been an ongoing concern. So I'm not sure if it's in raw data what we need to do to have it in a place that reflects our racial equity policy and our strategic plan goals about looking at things through a racial equity lens.
So just to be clear, you're looking for those activities that we talk about had growth, what their racial makeup was and their subgroup makeup was for those both?
For this in particular, well, yes, for this in particular, but also just from a broader standpoint, and this is, I think, directed more generally at the work that we're doing. If the goal is to increase participation, it's been flat, but there are certain clubs that did increase. What are they doing? And is it reflective of our goals of increasing the participation of our Black and Brown students? And it's hard to know that from looking at this report, but we state that that's one of our goals.
We can pull that together for this report and share that out with the board in information item at a future meeting.
And Greg, I appreciate, and I think I'm feeling my own self being a little snarly, and I'm going to attribute it to the way the world is feeling to me right now. But I'm just going, this feels like Groundhog Day, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that. I do want to stress, which isn't a direct response to your point because it's Groundhog's Day nonetheless. But I do want to stress that the full program evaluation, obviously is not what this whole thing is, and that full program eval should have had all that information in there was the intent anyway.
I appreciate that. I'm saying this report loses meaning if it does not. It's almost like, why are we even talking about this if it's not addressing our strategic plan goals and our racial equity policy, just from a general standpoint? If we have reports that come forward that we're supposed to use as information, but the information that's provided is not addressing our approach, I don't know what we're supposed to do with it. And the response has been, we can get that to you, and it could be an information item. Then we shouldn't be discussing it. And I will I'm going to stop talking now because I know that part of this is just the awareness, and I'm sure everyone shares it. So please don't take any of this personally.
Sure. If I could step in for a second when we speak to just the program evaluation piece of this and the data that's being or needs to be collected, as we'll be implementing the racial equity assessment analysis tool. That's going to position us to get the data that you're looking for, so we can make sure we're making those meaningful gains in those areas of increasing involvement of our Black and Brown students.
Yeah, it's Gina. I know that Jackie just said all of this, but I really do feel like, can we ensure that the next time we get this report that we have it in a way that we can see the information so that we can actually make an accurate assessment of the involvement of Black and Brown students?
Absolutely.
Yes, we will make sure that the next time you see this report, it will have the information as requested about our Black and Brown students.
Any other comments or questions by board members?
Well, I just want to echo what I've heard from both Jackie and Gina. And I know that numbers can be used in a lot of different ways that, it's hard sometimes to go beyond the surface numbers. And so the degree to which we can have some, between this year and next year, insight into some of the changes. I know women in leadership, my daughter's involved in that. And I know, in talking with her over time, that there's a very small percentage of ethnic minority representation there. And that's not some intentional exclusion, to the best of my knowledge. It's just how whatever I say now will be probably something implicitly not proper, but I'll try to say something anyway, which is we've got some Black students who I know, especially female students, who've really taken the leadership mantle the last few years at this school. And then there's some white students who are doing it, especially female students. And so to me, there's an opportunity to do more together. And I know anecdotally I've heard that there's been some efforts made, but I don't know what that really has looked like, conversations. And so the more that we can really encourage that and model that ourselves, the better. And so I just want to, I guess, put a third to that. And I think we're all in this, probably the same boat.
Thank you, Matt. Any other comments from board members? Okay, well, thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. Yes.
No, I was just saying thanks very much.
Oh, okay, yeah, and thank you, Mr. Stelzer.
Thank you. The next item is an information item. It's the barriers report from our last COW meeting. And that concludes all the items that we have tonight.
We do have still just one last future agenda items. Is there anything that anybody would like to bring up as a future agenda item?
I will note we are cleaning up the future agenda item list to remove those things that have been accomplished. And so our goal is to provide to the board those items that are still pending.
Thank you, that's helpful. Any suggestions? No? Okay.
Sarah, I don't know if this needs to be a future agenda item. This is Ralph, but I would like to have a memo about legal responsibilities that we've discussed previously in servicing all of our students' needs. And so I don't know if we need to make a formal request or have that as an agenda item, but I'm just going to note that that is something I would like to have.
Ralph. All right, so thank you to all of our staff and administrators who are still with us at this point. However, we do need to recess open to go back into closed session since we were unable to get through all of our items.
all my team members can leave after we go out. You don't have to sit here till we come back into open session.
Thank you.
And do
Have
we
a
need,
good night, everyone.
good night, thank you. Gail, do we need to
night.
vote to recess? I don't think so, right? Okay. I will see you guys in the closed room. All right, thanks.
Oh, some of you guys are quick.
Motivated. Whoever's on a spaceship, please put yourself on mute.
Right.
Okay, I think I have everyone, but Gina, given that she was not right at a computer, I think we should just go without her. I don't want to cause a car accident. So,
moved.
all
Who
those
said
in
that?
favor-
Of adjourning.
That was
Ralph.
Martiri moving. Let's move.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 All right, guys, have a good night. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.